It's fascinating. Chris, thank you. It's great having you here. For those of you that aren't aware of Symtel, we've been celebrating a very special month. This is our second year of having our doors open at the Symtel. And so for some of our visitors here on campus, if there's a chance, after we're done today, if you have not had a chance to go look at it, please do so. My colleague Marshall will be down there and can show you around a little bit. So since we've opened our doors, we've had the ability to sort of give Art Center a new resource, which I think we've all found quite valuable. The Symtel has also inspired new processes, new ways of thinking, some innovative ways of approaching design research. Okay. Today I'm going to show and share some of that impact that we feel that we've accomplished, especially this last year. First of all, the shift in approach. That's the main topic of my conversation with you today. I'll be highlighting a very specific case study that we did with Samsung last summer. And when Chris had mentioned sort of new ways of telling stories using materials, that's really what the driver of this particular study was with Samsung. A new way of telling stories, a new way of driving the design process, and really looking at the relationship between emotion and the user with product. Next, I'll then spend a few minutes talking about where we are now, evidence of change, I'm calling it. There's been a lot of great coursework that's been done across all different disciplines here, and I want to spend a few minutes highlighting those things, both in academia and in our studio classes. And then finally, next steps, what our biggest challenges are in the future and our biggest opportunities with that. So last summer, actually last spring in '07, Jeff Higashi, who was at the time the design director of the Samsung studio here in Los Angeles, who was also an Art Center grad, had been really involved in watching the Symtel grow and came to us and saying, you know what, I really want to do a project with Art Center in a very different manner. I really want to do a project that really kind of redefines what a cell phone is, a ubiquitous product. And I want to read actually the brief, and as you kind of read through the big questions here. The studio is focused on redefining the cell phone experiences, both functionally and emotionally, by visualizing future user scenarios around global, social, and cultural trends that are shaping consumer behavior, needs, and desires. Based on ethnographic and material studies, students research emerging materials and technologies to develop innovative ideas that address the skin of the product, sustainability, and dynamic color palettes in order to develop unique emotional bonds between the users and portable communication devices. That's a huge task. But the class was up for it. And before I get into the project, I need to recognize these three faculty members because they really took this challenge of this project, because this project was definitely a lot more experimental in nature than we've been used to in our past sponsored projects. So we've got James Mraz, Hydra Mupperdrum, and Todd Bell, a couple of which are in here today. They did a terrific job leading 5 student teams, all coming from different backgrounds of product design, environmental design, and graphic design. They really stayed true to the process, this innovative process. Without them, I don't think the project would have been quite as successful. It was challenging in that they were asking the students to do something very different. Typically in our 14-week projects, you spend a couple weeks going through the research, you continue the research process, but you know what, your sketching forms right away. Usually within a couple of weeks, you're sketching thumbs. They asked them to hold off for about 6 or 7 weeks. So there's a little bit of anxiety, a new kind of approach. What was being asked was to first define the user. There was 5 different demographic life stages that were chosen. Each team picked a certain demographic, from youth market all the way to the aging market. And along with that, create compelling color material palettes that were associated with those user markets. So what I want to do before I get to sort of in-depth study is a quick overview of the process, just to show you kind of what the scope was here. And then we'll look at one of the projects in depth. So the first assignment really was getting them to look at the demographic information, but also doing a series of material studies that looked at material samples, artifacts, products, and really to understand how those materials could evoke emotion. Also, they did a series of exercises about mapping emotions and using materials and artifacts as metaphors to express a range of emotions. So at the same time, they spent some time doing some observational and ethnographic research studies and conducted these studies in order to understand the values and the emotional attributes of the end user from that given demographic. Then the two worlds started coming together. They spent some time then translating that information into colored material palettes. This is about week 3 or 4, I believe. And try to understand what kind of emotion was being expressed both from the color, the finish, and the material, and the composition of them all together. And then these palettes became refined along the way. This is right around midterm, I believe, where the analysis of artifacts and form came in. At this point, they're still not sketching officially, although I think I saw some thumbnails along the way. But really, it was about making sure that the demographic was completely defined through this making of palette. And then finally, at the midterm, decisions were made after the students told the stories about these user scenarios and the relationship to these palettes and materials and the emotional engagement that they were understanding at this point. There was some sketching that was happening really right before midterm. And then we dove right into form development and function. The students then spent about 2 to 3 weeks, I'd say within 3 weeks, pretty much the essential product design was actually done. It was designed. It was like as if all the recipe just popped out these forms. It was quite magical. And then finally at the end, the students were able to demonstrate the process of connecting this human emotion with the end product with an emphasis on skin, going back to the original brief. So a closer look into just 1 of 5. They're all fantastic. But LOL was the team of Dana Lee, Pauline Quintanar, Rachel Kim, Gray Lynn, and Sarah King. They focus on the 8 to 18-year-old youth market. One of the exercises that all the students did was create these boards that represent specific emotional attributes. In this case, for this particular demographic, you had Fruit Loops representing sort of immaturity, sort of the young part of youthfulness. You have them floating into the Cheerios, they're starting to mature, and then adulthood represented by the machine nuts. So you'll see over there that this is very representative of the Art Center community, by the way, although there should be some Fruit Loops at the very end. We have plenty of these around here. So this really set the tone for the studio. And the discoveries here through, again, they were kind of simultaneously looking at materials and playing with those palettes, but also understanding this demographic deeply. 3 discoveries were made. One was that this particular age group connects with their families and friends whenever and wherever they want. It's the 24/7. Number 2, that their mobile devices allow them to access and share their favorite games, music, and social interests. That was number 2. The ethnography revealed that there was one commonality, even between these different age range, was music. And that was really the common passion in their lives. It influenced their lifestyle choices, culture, and the products that they consumed. So Destiny, Jeff, and Sharon revealed that their cell phone needs and behaviors were very similar, but their choices and entertainment preferences in music were quite different.